The question is Corvette Z06 or ZR1. I've been getting a lot of questions regarding this, and it's a hard one because on one end of the spectrum, you've got the flat plane crank, naturally aspirated Corvette that makes almost 700 horsepower, and then on the other side of things, you have the new twin turbocharged, that's what we presume it's going to be, ZR1. And after me selling my Z06 last year, it's really given me time to think about it, and I've been really interested to hear what other people think. So when I get that question from them, I like to ask back, well, what do you think? Which one do you like more? So today I want to pose that question to all of you guys and really give you my answer out of my extensive time owning the Corvette Z06 and tracking that vehicle alongside experiencing it versus a C7 ZR1 that we've had from the previous generation, because there's a lot to go over here and the mindsets are very, I would say, flexible, very flexible. It's because you have that naturally aspirated Corvette. Again, the Z06 is basically like a next generation Ferrari 458. It really is. At the same time, it's got its weaknesses. So today, I'm going to explain to you some of the drawbacks behind the Z06 and some of the I would say wins that you get from owning one that you probably won't have with this Corvette ZR1 over the horizon. So today, let's break it all down. Okay, here's the deal. 4 reasons why you should buy the Corvette Z06 over the ZR1. First off, you guys all know that sound is glorious. So check out some of these POV track action videos that we have on the channel. There's so many, so if you want to watch the full raw track footage without me talking over it, make sure to check out the other track videos listed. I'll have one floating on the top of the screen right now that you can click on. Anyways, I love hearing this motor just scream. This is Chevrolet's Moonshot engine, and it is them throwing all new technology into it to try to figure out the best way to make their first flat plane crank supercar. Anyways, when you're on the track and you go on full throttle, it just climbs and climbs and climbs. Then when you hit the braking zone and you want to downshift, you go left paddle, bang, downshift. It's just the way it screams on that blip of throttle. It's so addicting, and you can hear when I downshift in these segments right here how good it sounds. Just listen. That is going to be a big differentiator between the ZR1, because we've heard the ZR1, and I'll play a clip right now. It doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like that. I'm curious if people are going to be really getting into these cars trying to get the most performance out of them, or are they getting into these vehicles because they want the most drama? It seems like the Z06 will have the most drama when it comes to the soundtrack. The second reason I want to talk about is going to be the weight, because when you throw a turbocharging system on top of the Z06 and then you put on even more aero alongside other upgrades, you're probably going to see a heavier Corvette. When you have more and more, let's say, horsepower, you're getting a lot more heat. The question is the standard cooling system on the Z06 retrofittable onto the new ZR1? Chevrolet could have gone as far as they did with the cooling system on the Z06 because it would work perfectly for the ZR1. Or that is the cooling system at maximum threshold working for the Z06, and they need to create more cooling for the ZR1. There's a lot of different ways they can go about this. Question is at hand, how much more will the cooling system weigh in the Corvette ZR1? If it's going to weigh significantly more, then when you look at the car as an overall package, when you have turbos on top of the engine, more cooling, more aero tacked on, it's probably going to weigh significantly more than the Corvette Z06. I know that the ZR1 weighed more than the Z06 did for the C7 platform. I'm very curious, guys. What do you think? Please let us know down below. The heavier the car, you do get more detriments versus a lighter vehicle. How will that translate for on-track performance? Well, it does increase tire wear, brake wear, everything. But that's on a excessive, exaggerated end, obviously. If you're going up 1,000 pounds, then yeah, you're going to see way more tire wear, way more brake wear, etc. for laps. But if it's very marginal, I don't think we'll expect anything, but marginal is still something, isn't it? And it's important to really analyze and be aware of how much weight these brands are throwing on top of each one of their performance cars, because it's not a good thing, it's a bad thing. But they have no choice at times because every year we have more and more regulations, more safety systems, more technology. People expect standard. In the end of the day, it impacts these cars. Thirdly, the third reason why I think the Z06 is a better buy than the Corvette ZR1 is because the valuations. If you look online right now, even on Bring a Trailer and other auction sites, the Z06s, they aren't going for over sticker anymore. You can buy, well, if they would sell for the bid, obviously, they're bidding for less than sticker price. So maybe if someone didn't have the reserve feature turned on, you can buy one for less than sticker. I don't know. However, at dealerships, as long as you're not shopping at the greedy ones, you can buy these for MSRP. It's funny to me because the dealerships still marking them up are the ones you'd expect to mark them up, the ones in big California cities, because they have a lot of people living there. They know that someone will be able to pay the markup. However, if you call out of state or elsewhere where there's not as many potential buyers out there, you can get really good deals for the Corvette Z06, and a lot of them are just trying to get their Z06s off their showroom floor because the production is so high on the Z06s. They just keep pumping them out. You know, every year more and more are getting built. So when I had my car, there weren't many Z06s. I got mine back in November of 2020. Was it 2022? No way. It's 2024 now. Last year is 2023. I got my Z06 in November of 2022. That's crazy to think about. Back then, there weren't many Z06s on the streets. I would say a couple hundred initially. Then they got to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. I think I sold mine before they hit 6,000, and that was for year one. Year two, already rolling through. I mean, we're going to see quite a lot of Z06s on the street, which means that's a positive. It means that you can get them for a lot less money than Corvette ZR1s. If you're a fan of that, if you want to get the cheaper Corvette that is still very good, the Z06 could be the better buy. And finally, we've gone to the final reason why the Z06 is a better buy than the ZR1. It's because of the redline. If Chevrolet does go away from putting in a flat plane crank inside the motor of the Corvette ZR1, that would mean we're probably going to see a lower RPM redline. The limit before the engine just says, nope, you can't go any further. In the Corvette Z06, it goes to around 85 to 8,600 RPM, and if the ZR1 again has a cross-plane crankshaft with turbochargers, they're probably going to lower that spin speed. Having a flat plane crank really allows you to rev high in the RPM. That's why you see them in McLarens, also Ferraris, for example. They're really, really cool, and the inertia factor, it works perfectly for creating a smooth operating motor all the way from a low RPM to a high RPM. At the same time, these motors are prone to more rattling. So when you have more rattling and shaking vibrations with the motor, it may become harder for a brand like a Chevrolet making their first turbocharged flat plane crank engine to be sustainable. I think the likelihood of us seeing a cross-plane crank in the Corvette ZR1 is pretty high. If we look at Ford with their GT350 from 2016 to 2020 and the Shelby GT500, well, what did you see there? You saw a flat plane crank 5.2 liter V8 that revved to 8,250 RPM, so less RPM than Chevy's flat plane crank. Anyways, they used that motor in racing. They had the Mustang, I think it was GT350RC, then they had the Mustang GT4. Anyways, they ended up pulling out the flat plane crankshaft for the GT4 race car because supposedly the vibrations were too much to handle for maintenance over each race. They pulled out the flat plane crank and put in a cross plane crankshaft, and when I even drove the Mustang GT4 race car, it had the cross plane crankshaft. In the end of the day, Ford did not keep the flat plane crankshaft in the GT500. The supercharged 760 horsepower Mustang had a cross-plane crankshaft within the same 5.2 liter V8 housing. It's pretty interesting to think about. If Ford went down that route, it's pretty high with the likelihood, I think, that Chevy might consider the same thing. If they do, we're probably going to see a red line closer to 8,000 RPM or 7,500 RPM, which is where the red line is for the Shelby GT500. 500. What do you think of my 4 reasons why you should buy the Corvette Z06 over the ZR1? The first one was regarding the engine sound. It's so good, I love it. So engine sound. Secondly, when it comes to the weight, it's probably gonna weigh less than the Corvette ZR1 because it's got less sophistication, less going on. Put that finger down. Finally, the price point, it's gonna be a lot cheaper to buy than the Corvette ZR1. And then lastly, it's going to rev even higher. At least that's what we expect. So those are my 4 reasons. Now, obviously, for those 4 reasons why you should buy the Z06 over the ZR1, there's equal amount of reasons, if not more, to buy the ZR1 over the Z06. And I'll just name a few right away. The horsepower, it's going to be a lot faster with the horsepower. Secondly, it's going to have more downforce, which means you're going to corner even faster. That's a high likelihood of happening. Thirdly, it's the newest car on the block, which means it's going to be the hottest car on the block. And fourthly, it's just going to be a lot faster everywhere, in my opinion. It's not only going to accelerate faster with the horsepower, but it's going to be the better drag racer. It's going to be the better track car, I think. It's going to be so much more evolved on top of the Corvette Z06. The Z06 had some weaknesses on the track. For example, with the downforce and the horsepower output it had, it was pretty limiting with top-end speed. It would accelerate fast, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't light years faster accelerating side by side versus a 992 Porsche GT3. It just wasn't. I can't wait to see the new Corvette ZR1, guys. Stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be an incredible car. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. It really does help me out. And subscribe for much more great content coming out your way. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the notification bell so you're up to date with all the new videos coming out. I'll see all of you in the next episode.